was looking
used
at
on,
2024.
yeah,
This is from March of 2024.
yeah.
So here when, let me get it started. So what I was saying was, this should be passable towards property and tied into the telephone, and that would be an emergency access. Just looking at this, I guess if they're in there, right? You see what I mean? It goes right.
Oh, wait a minute, if it's in, no.
Well,
It's a greenhouse.
why didn't
What do
finish
you-
what my thought process was to tell high probably wouldn't have an issue with it, that it's in,
That was,
The
that these are
greenhouse.
already built, or already in place, whatever you do with greenhouses.
okay.
But that road looks like it goes right across, that would be a great emergency access if you agree to it for telephone. I know they're going to walk down below, but
Mhm.
I don't believe they could make this turn with a fire truck. This way or this way. Maybe this way. That's pretty steep. We're over here looking at the Google Maps for Dave Stoltzfus Road. All right, we're going to call the May 23rd, 2024 meeting to order. Our first item of business is to approve the planning commission minutes from April 25th, 2024.
Just went out. But not lit up.
No one's on, right?
They weren't when I started it. No, the one participant was just us.
Okay. The minutes are in our packet. If there's no changes or additions or corrections, I'd like to ask for a motion and a second to approve the minutes of April 25th, 2024. We have a motion, we have a second.
I'll second.
Any questions? All in favor of approving the minutes of April 25th, 2024, signify by saying aye. Are there any opposed? Open forum, is there anyone in the public who would like to speak?
No thanks.
Okay. We have no subdivision land development applications. We have one zoning hearing board application, and this is the Stoltzfus property comes off Park Road.
Correct.
And Jen, if you want to explain
Sure.
what we have in front of us.
This came up last fall. We became aware that David Stoltzfus had King's Pumpkin Farm operating from his property. It was in conjunction with him getting his health department renewal licensure for the fall, and he was looking to get some other type of fire hood. And anyway, we became aware he's got this business here, which operates on the weekends in the fall. And in investigating that, we found that the three greenhouses in the back and the little shed towards the front of the property were installed without permits. He put in his application for the greenhouse permits. One of the three could be permitted as it was established. The other two were within the required yard setback. So he has submitted a variance application to reduce that setback off the property line for those. He originally submitted that application back in January, but we encouraged him to amend his application to also include his pumpkin farm business, so we only did one zoning here. The pumpkin farm business itself, the township ordinance doesn't necessarily have provisions for what's kind of been dubbed as agritourism activities. Specifically, such as these festivals and things that the farms put on. So technically, it kind of best fits in outdoor recreation kind of use, which would need a variance in the zoning district. As far as I understand, did provide a description, you know, of his business. He operates weekends generally, and, you know, maybe some limited weekdays on September to October. Sells pumpkins, mums, you know, fall decor. He's got a little petting zoo, corn maze, pick your own pumpkins. He does get each year his appropriate permits for the health department for serving of the food, anything related to do with the animals. He's always in compliance with that. His farm is preserved. The Preservation Board is aware of the greenhouses as well as his pumpkin farm operation. As far as I know, it's been operating for multiple years, and the township's never received any complaints about traffic noise or anything going on there. So it's more the township's goal to kind of just get it legitimized, and in doing so, kind of the only means or the best means to do that was to seek a variance for operation of a limited outdoor recreation use. And ultimately, in terms of conditions, the zoning hearing condition could be that it's operated in compliance, you know, with the testimony presented at the hearing. So basically what he outlines is his scope, and, you know, he would go beyond that, you know, in the future. And,
And he doesn't go under rural occupation.
no, it's not. It's, this type of use doesn't fit into a rural occupation category. Yeah, so.
So it's King's Pumpkin, does he lease that land to King, or is King a family member?
That was actually bought. King used to, a different person than that, had that name, so they just took that name with it.
Okay, so I'm not sure I understand what you mean.
So another person owned it,
So
They bought it.
David owns it now,
yeah, but they bought this business from another guy.
so they bought the pumpkin business from the other guy.
Right. And I guess his seller, his buyer.
Was the pumpkin
What was the
business?
pumpkin business?
Yeah, where was the other pumpkin business
It was
before?
not the King.
I think it was in a different township.
Oh.
Yeah. So it was moved there. Yeah, well, like, yeah, it was around there.
So there would be stipulations on when he has this hearing, like if you alter or change the scope of what you're doing, you need to come back to the township, because it seems
Right.
like this is somebody who doesn't come to the township for permission.
Right, and that could be, you know, part of your recommendation as well to the board, like if you, whatever position you take, you know, if you take support in a position, you can have, you know, condition that, you know, provide it.
But what, the
Or-
zoning hearing board would set up hours of operation and that type of thing.
They would, like he specifies on here, it's 9:30 to sundown. So if this sheet of information from him would be considered part of the zoning
His
hearing
exhibit.
application, and the zoning hearing board would then, you know, if they were to grant a variance, it would be basically contingent upon him operating the business in conformance with, you know, the information and stuff presented in the zoning hearing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, as you said, if he was going to, you know, go beyond that, like he's got his food stand Friday evening and Saturday, so if he decided he wanted to sell food all week long, he would have to come back, you know, to the zoning hearing board for a modification of that decision.
And you guys have established, like, is there a limit to how many people, like, how many people can be on the property at a certain time, or, like, I mean, it looks like there's no parking. but-
Yeah, I think they all just park in the field. You know, those can be provisions that the zoning hearing board puts on, you know, there's no parking along township streets. We had another one of these just kind of come up, something similar with the farm use in one of our other municipalities, and there were conditions, you know, that you had to maintain traffic access aisles and stuff in your parking areas. There's no parking on the street or closure of, you know, streets.
Do they have, like, porta potties and stuff there?
Yeah, he's got porta potties and hand washing stations.
So
You know, for
the
those.
Woodjack Preservation Board he claims it has no problem with
The
our township ag
the Chesapeake
preservation?
County one with Jeffrey Shilling.
Does our township have our township ag preservation board have any say in it? And do we get that in writing? I mean, he says,
Usually,
if you have any
usually,
questions, where to call him, why should we call him? He should get it in writing and it should be part of the record.
I have to look back if we checked, if I had anything in writing yet from Jeffrey Shillington when we discussed this last fall. And if not, then we can,
I would
make
think-
that
I would
point to
think
them
he
that
would want
we
that
can
as
get
part
it.
of it.
Yeah, we can get an email from Jeffrey Shillington too.
And how about telemark? Shouldn't we
Well,
think?
they would be notified.
Yeah,
They can go to the
notify as
hearing.
part of the hearing.
They love the property, they'll be notified.
But what I was gonna add to that was, I think Telhi they should weigh in whether they are okay with this or not. And
Well, wouldn't they, if they come to the hearing?
that's if they come to it here, or if they don't come to the
Well,
hearing.
then I guess they
Well,
don't care.
Yeah, I mean, you have, I don't know that you can go specifically to Telhi and say that because for any other zoning hearing or conditional use that, we don't go particularly to the neighbors and ask them. They get notified in the same manner as everybody
I
else.
would imagine they
I
would
mean,
notify
If you yourself, as Gary, want to talk to Telhi, you're fine. But Gary
No,
has a
doesn't want to
specific,
talk to Telhi. I believe that
thing,
Telhi and
um,
they have a really good relationship, but I think that if they're gonna be notified, it's their responsibility then
right,
to
Yeah.
show up to the meeting if they're in opposition of it. Maybe they're not.
yeah, they'll be
Probably
notified.
not.
Yeah, they've got multiple parcels that abut this one and are within the 500 feet. So there's a list in here of all the property owners that will be notified.
Yeah, I saw they were.
Yeah, several in Beaver Dam and Park, as well as Telhi. So, yeah, they'll receive the same notification of the hearing as the other adjourners and have the ability to
So is this,
discuss it.
is
So,
this business open every day, but only food is there Friday and Saturday, or is the business just open Friday and Saturday?
The business is King's Pumpkin Farm, correct?
Right, but here it says hours 9:30 sundown, and it has a bunch of things, and then it
September.
says here, Friday evening and Saturday, so does that mean
I
this is?
think,
Beyond September and
when he-
October, is that what your question is?
No, I'm saying, is this open during the week for all this other stuff up above? And then is the food
Oh, I see
just
what
Friday
you're
and
saying.
Saturday?
I had to recall from,
I think
You don't
it's
think
just,
so?
I think it's just.
I think it's just Friday. That's what I was gonna say. I'm pretty sure that's what he had told me, for that.
That's what their signs say in the fall, right?
But Friday said, yeah, that's what I didn't want to say it for sure without, I was gonna try and go back to my emails and look it up, but I was pretty sure it was limited to that, and his health department license also stipulates,
So really, this is the weekends.
when it's served, yeah,
It's not, it's not.
yeah.
We could suggest clear that up and, what action you want to take from here. So what are we gonna do with this?
Are we just addressing the business right now, or are we talking about the greenhouses too?
We work
You
both.
can
both.
take separate positions on each variance if you want to.
With the greenhouses, so they're already there, but if there's no hardship, there's no reason they can't meet the setback requirements. Like, is it,
Right.
I mean, don't they, isn't there usually a reason why we can't meet the setbacks?
There should be.
You mean like a hardship?
Yeah, like a
Yeah.
hardship, I'm just
Yeah, I
struggling
mean,
with that.
usually,
little
like
bit.
on residential properties, it's because of the location of the septic system, or the
Right.
weight of the lot, or, things like that are generally,
Did he say why he didn't get a permit for him? He just threw them up?
Yeah, probably, I think they tend to not think that the greenhouses, I guess they kind of think in their heads that they're like a temporary structure, but they still require permits, and they actually require stormwater management over a certain size.
Right.
Um,
So temporary, if it's been there for 3 years now,
yeah,
that's a little more permanent,
right,
but
yes.
it's just one thing.
Do these require stormwater?
They should.
Some of them will, yeah. The township stormwater provision, it's probably more than a couple now, several years back, the state came out with the provisions for high tunnels, and there's exemptions based upon the existing kind of square footage of buildings. So I think it's like up to 25% of that amount, high tunnels can be put in. There's a couple other criteria, like, it obviously can't be like directly on the property line. Certain things related to stormwater. And the township then also sets like a minimum, or it's the greater of the 25% of the, building areas, or 5,000 square feet for a high tunnel. If you have you're starting out, you use like one barn or something on the property, that is exempt from stormwater, but anything beyond that needs to do stormwater management. So usually it's stone trenches along either side of the greenhouses where it shoots off into those. Or alternatively, you can do a trade-off, like if there's existing ag buildings on the property whose roof leaders just drain off anywhere, we could put an infiltration trench closer to one of those buildings, and manage that water in lieu of the greenhouse water.
How many feet would he need to be in compliance with those setbacks?
I
You
think
say he's at 35?
I think he's at 35, I think he's 60.
Is there a reason he didn't come tonight, so we can ask him some of these questions?
And he was sent the letter, and I had asked the township to give him, so they would give him a reminder call, because I thought it would be helpful, particularly for this one. I mean, some of the variance applications don't matter as much, but this one I had, but I didn't hear an update from the township staff, on whether he was or wasn't planning on coming.
So we want to take them together, or we want to split them out? We want to,
Do we need to say to the zoning hearing board about stipulations, or is that something they're automatically going to put on the scope?
You can put it in your recommendation, because your recommendations go to the board,
Right.
and I write up like what your position is most of the time with them, at least recently, the board's taken the same position.
Right.
And then our office sends a letter to the zoning hearing board solicitor giving the township's position. So then it would be in writing on behalf of the township's position that, you guys slash the board took a position of X, and if it was support or whatever, it would be with the conditions that it's operated in conformance with, the scope outlined, in the application. Any modifications would need to, go back before the zoning hearing board, that there'll be no parking along, township roadways, and, parking areas, must be,
So he never gave you the reason of the setback, right?
not on here, and whether we talked about it last fall, I can't tell you for sure or not.
his only hardship is the fact that he didn't come here for a permit to put the buildings in, and now his hardship is that he encroaches on the required side yard setback.
Couldn't he cut it back?
Do those
25
come in
feet?
sections? Do they come in sections?
Plastic doesn't, but the poles do.
That's what I was saying, right? You kind of feel bad for him to make a move, but on the other hand, he didn't ask for a permit, so it's really on him.
That's why I don't feel bad,
I mean, you know what I mean, though.
honestly, because you could have came here, I mean, it's not like he doesn't have the space.
Right, he has a space, that's what I mean, he has a space, but
I personally don't have a problem with the business, it's only 8 weekends out of the month. I mean, where the business is, there's nobody around there. I mean, I would leave it if, you know, the tell-by side, that's not where the business is, it's on the other side of the property. So, I mean, if this person over here isn't complaining, then I would think the business would be fine, as long as it's, you know, if he's going to expand on this though, I think he should have to go back to the zoning hearing board
If he's going to expand on the business.
on what he has written here.
Yeah.
But I think what he is presuming isn't out of, I mean, I don't, on this particular property, in this instant, I think it's up to the zoning hearing board, but I personally have a problem with it. I do have a problem with him putting in greenhouses, not having a permit, and then claiming, you know, I have a hardship, because a greenhouse isn't a barn or anything else.
Right.
You can move them, you can make them smaller, you can move them. It's not like you put up some barn and now get to disassemble the whole entire thing. I mean, greenhouse is something separate.
Yeah, I went back to my emails. Apparently, when he didn't get a permit because they didn't have concrete foundations, so he didn't think he needed one. But I didn't see any notes in my old emails about,
But when he came in here, he only had 2, right? And now he has, no, when he came back, when he was in here a little while ago, he had 2. And now he has 3.
I know there was 3 there as of last fall when we found this.
I feel like there was only 2 when we reviewed reviewed the application.
I'm not sure. I think
What's that?
there's been 3, I think 2 are the issue, 1 was in compliance, so maybe that's the.
And then that one.
So he got a permit for the one that's in compliance.
Yeah, he put in a permit application last fall and we issued that.
Well, because he came in and got a permit for the first one, but didn't bother coming in to get a permit for the.
No,
He
it's
applied for
not
all
that
3, but we had to deny the second and third ones. because
Yeah,
he
he
Oh,
didn't get
just
setbacks.
recently.
Yeah, if you look
So
at it.
last
that's
fall,
what he uses definitely.
When this all came to light, we said there's 3 houses,
Yeah,
greenhouses that weren't
But on
permitted.
here, it's pretty clear.
You need to get permits. So you put in permit applications, you could issue 1 of the 3 because it met everything. We couldn't issue the other 2 because of the setback issue.
Okay, you did
So-
say that earlier. So let's take his, let's take them separate if that's okay. The King's Pumpkin Farm, is there a desire to support, not support, take no position on that item? His zoning request for that?
I make motion support.
I second it.
And this is what's saying we should get written approval from the ag department, right?
And
And then changes scope.
and stick,
Yeah.
and if he changes the scope, you guys gotta be okay with this. If you made a motion in a second.
Yeah, I've gone past their members' time on Friday evening, and they have organizers there. But I do understand where if there'd be a problem, they would have to make some changes there, that their parking would get too tight or something.
So would you be okay if we add the condition that it's only Fridays and Saturdays? If that changes, they have to come back for approval? And
But
also,
wouldn't they have to?
Yeah.
Because their
it's-
application is for Friday and Saturday, so if they wanted to expand it, they'd have to come back.
If they want to do any more than what's on
Right.
their outline.
But we're only approving the show.
is that a sin? Excuse me?
Well, that's in their application, that's gonna be an
Well, sure.
exhibit at the hearing. So the exhibit's
So
gonna
we
be,
don't, you're saying we don't have to add it?
we can, but,
Yeah, we'll reference it,
yeah,
that
well,
the written approval of the ag, which actually I did find from Jeff Shellington, last September. I contacted him on this, and they didn't have any issues.
So that exists.
That exists, and I will send that along.
so I would just say, based on his application, you know, Friday and
scope
Saturday,
and-
the scope, Friday and Saturday, we're fine with, but
You know,
if it's
days and
anything more,
times.
I would think he'd have to come back because
Yeah.
this is gonna be an exhibit at the
Yeah,
hearing, so.
I'll word it as the scope and days and times of operation are consistent with the application. And otherwise, they need to come back.
Both Levi's okay with that?
And no parking along township roads.
Mhm.
You go with that?
Okay?
All in favor? Say aye. Any opposed? Okay. Now it's tackle greenhouse.
Now personally, if he has come here for a permit and asked for that setback with a reason, it's just a temporary building, I would have been totally fine with that, I'm sure, but the way he went about it was,
Well, he would have needed a variance regardless.
but yeah, he
He would have needed a variance regardless if he wanted to be less than 60 feet. And
Is
he
that
really
the-
doesn't have a hardship.
Is that
because
determined on size, or how's that?
It's in ag.
In the ag zone,
Setbacks.
the rear yard setback is 60 feet.
Any building over what size?
Any building.
Any building.
Any-
Temporary building?
So, any agricultural building has to meet the required yard setbacks for that zoning district. And then there's other requirements if the ag building has animals in it. But, so, for any agricultural building, the setbacks are whatever the zoning district setbacks are. And for the ag zoning district, the rear yard setback is 50 feet, 60 feet. And that is his rear yard area, so.
It looks to me like he just kind of used up a corner. And to me, that's just, he has all the room in front of it, so to me, there's no reason why he couldn't move it up 30 feet.
All right.
Well, he could chunk off a little bit, maybe add it to the other side or something like that. I mean, it's not like he had to move the whole thing. I mean, the things, how big is this thing? It's like, boy.
They're long, they're like well over 100 feet each.
Question?
Oh,
Is there any
probably.
concrete down?
Now,
I don't think so.
you know,
30 by 2, 34 by 200, 34 by 220.
So 20 feet, 25 feet off to come within the setback. I mean, I don't know why you would.
I wonder if the 20-foot modules, like 20 feet between the supports. This one's 200, one's 220.
So you could move it 40 feet.
40 feet on the
Yeah.
side.
40 feet.
Two sections.
Yeah.
So what do we want to do?
So it can be a position of support, against, or no position. So it sounds like it's either against, flat out against, or no position, and you leave it up to the zoning hearing board.
It's something you can move, you know.
So
To Erin's point, you know, here's somebody who's not really just doing what they want. I don't know.
So you want to make a motion to not support? Or you want to make a motion to leave it up to the zoning hearing board, or do you want to support it?
I mean, I don't want to support it.
Anybody can make a motion, and then we'll see if there's a second. So, support, against, or no position. Somebody, anybody make a motion for whatever you feel.
I mean, I'll make a motion, no position.
Okay, we have a second for no position. Okay, so hearing what,
A no position means you don't want to say, right?
it means
You're-
you're not making an opinion either way.
You're not giving your opinion, you're leaving emphasis.
You're like staying neutral on it and not basically then, you know, it's kind of fully up to the zoning hearing board. You know, if you guys take a position of support, you know, on an application, the zoning hearing board is going to know the township's in favor of it, so.
So we have a motion and a second for not supporting the request.
No, she took no
She said
position.
Oh, what did I say? Not support, I'm sorry. That's what I meant to say. I didn't mean to say it. I'm honest. No position. We have a motion and a second. Any further questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Looks like the ayes have it
Okay,
for no position.
correct. I wrote down no position. That's what Terry did.
The only other item we have is a planning module for Emanuel Stoltzfus on on Mount Pleasant Road. And that's
Yeah, we don't
also part of
always-
our packet.
Yeah, the component 4As, we don't always, technically meet motions. I can say I honestly haven't reviewed, the module literally just came in. So usually what happens with these is, we review the component 4A for sewage planning, asks like whether it's consistent with the zoning ordinance, consistent with, land use, does their township saldo, is it going to affect, historic resources, is proposed sewage consistent, with the 537 plan. So, you don't technically have to make a motion on it, but if you want to, I would say the motion would be to approve Gary as chair to sign component 4A once it's been reviewed by the township engineer, so that I know if it is compliant with zoning and things like that.
So, planning commission okay with that? Any no's, any opposed to it? Okay. So you review it, if it's okay?
And that's when I
Send
email
it
it over
over.
to you and I say sign, and you send it back. Usually very quickly.
As long as you can, take signed PDFs.
Yeah?
That's all we have on the agenda. We're back open forum.
Thanks.
Okay?
Gary, I have two things I wanted to mention.
Sure.
First thing, I wanted to see, if there's a way we can get people's plans to be up on the screen. I think it's kind of frustrating when we're looking at stuff here and people, are using easel, like nobody in the audience can see that. I think in this day and age, we should be able to have a plan. Not necessarily, I know we could probably share our screen, but I don't think we could share our whole packet. But if there was just something up, if people take the time to come, it would be nice if they could see what we're
I
talking
thought
about.
I heard Warren saying that at one of the supervisors meetings, they were working on something.
Yeah, I
Be
know,
able to
we
do that.
mentioned it to them, because it comes up routinely when we have plans, so I mentioned it to them each time.
I told him a while ago about, I don't see why in this day and age that we can't have applications online to review what subdivisions are current.
So the issue with that's come across in the last couple of years is that they've deemed those subdivision plans to be copyrighted. So
Right.
unless the applicant and their engineer agree for them to be shared openly to the public, the township can't.
Why?
Put them
It's a
fully
public
out there.
document.
It's not a public document until it's approved or whatever. Yeah. So,
But when it's presented and being discussed and reviewed,
yeah, then
there's no reason why it
it can't be up on
the
the
screen.
screen.
And I don't know if that could turn a little bit.
I don't know what kind of films.
If you're trying too much, I got difficulty seeing with that sign there.
Yeah,
It's either that or until they get whatever electronic system up that would work, which, again, if that can't turn, that really doesn't help them. So there's a second easel, and, the applicants are told to bring two sets of the boards with the plans, one for you guys to see, one
I
for
think
the
that's
audience
even hard though,
to
because when
see.
they're like pointing at stuff, they're not gonna be pointing.
Yeah,
The
it's,
easel's blocked.
so unless they, I don't know if they can,
And then you find print on either.
Yeah.
For years,
yeah, it's hard to see either way.
What about
That
how?
was the ticket,
Yeah.
except for half the board or half the planning commission, you have to turn and see it. But
But,
that used to work from an overhead camera. They'd lay it on a table.
yeah, it worked with like that thing, and it came from here maybe. Like, I think something showed down,
There, yeah, that's
Something
gone,
there.
wherever it is, whatever was there is gone.
yeah,
'Cause it used to come down onto the plans
Right.
and put them up on the big screen.
yeah.
But if is that something relatively new? Is that pretty new?
What thing, that projector thing?
Yeah.
No, I think that was,
Is that,
I think it's been there for a bit.
yeah, I think that was
Because-
part of that system.
you could load that and put it on.
Yeah, that would be even better, because it's so big.
Yeah, I mean, there should be a way to share.
So you could have an engineer, just.
Yeah, like I can,
Janet.
like, yeah, have our laptop and just
Project it up there. Yeah.
share up there however you do that, but, yeah, I mean, that's a constant complaint from
Yeah, I
the
think-
audience and, like you said, even for you guys, it's hard to be the small plans.
Right.
I mean, we're trying to look at our plans here, but
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, that screen's nice and big that everybody can
see what we're
it.
talking, and I just feel like we're always talking and looking at something, there's no regard for the people out there who have no idea.
Right, and they always have to do electronic submissions now because of how the Chester County Planning Commission does it. So we always have a PDF of their plans.
Oh, we can pass the one to Warren.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we could figure that out,
Yeah.
I think that would be a good suggestion.
I'll emphasize that.
I thought he said at one of the meetings that they were working on something. Somebody asked that one supervisor.
I'll put the
Well, I
vote.
think that part of it was that copyright thing, and then the other part was, I think to do that, somebody's got to be responsible for getting the information and then having, physically hooking it up while you're here, and then, so in other words, if, let's just say Darren, you're responsible for doing that, so you got to kind of manipulate that. You're doing multiple jobs, so you're trying to understand what's going on and review it, plus you're controlling the things they.
But if Jen gets it, she has it on her laptop, should be able to connect and talk to that.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be, it's not like it's a problem, it's just somebody's physically got to do it, and then it may take them away from doing your job while they're doing, you're doing this, and making sure that, okay, go to this page, okay, well, wait a minute, I have something to say about this, so it's just kind of a little bit clumsy on that aspect.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be every page we have, it just needs to be whatever plan they would be showing on their easel is up there while we're talking about it, just the general.
Yeah, it could just be select sheets. or something.
Yeah, just some.
Yeah, usually, I mean, you need the layout plan, you need like a stormwater plan. Yeah, like we used to do those reduced kind of sets for you guys that had limited plans, like you don't need all the profile sheets and you don't need all the detail sheets and, you don't need all that.
I think it was definitely doable, it's just that, something
That
clumsy, you
too.
just got to deal with the clumsiness of it, that's all.
And then the other question is, I wasn't here last time the comp plan was updated, what's our goal going to be in that? How did that work before?
Well, how it worked before, Brandywine Conservancy was kind of a facilitator,
I think that's how.
and some of us on the planning commission attended, well, we attended all the meetings, a lot of people, some of the people on the planning commission attended. Supervisors occasionally, and then the borough also had their planning folks there as well. I don't know if that's the same way, not to put you on the spot, Sal, but I don't know if that's the same way you're planning on doing it this time or not.
We're in conjunction with the borough, so you have borough reps, you'll have somebody from one or two of us from the supervisor, I'm personally going to be involved with it, so you at least one or two of us from the supervisor side of it. Then I think you have a resident, and then you have public meetings, so there's multiple chances of people being involved and seeing what's going on throughout the process.
I think your question was, what's the planning
Right,
commission
so-
role in it?
We just show up at public meetings, or we're actually more involved?
I think,
I can't answer that because I don't know what the lead for the conservancy is going to request. They may say you can have a representative from the planning board. They may tell us who do you want to be.
No, we tell them. That's
Yeah.
how it went the last time. We told them what the committee was going to consist of.
But,
And,
yeah, correct.
and that's, so.
They like to have their hands in it a little too much.
Yeah.
I know you're getting different.
But I mean, I don't know if they have a limit. It's like, you don't want 50 people on.
Well, we
Well,
should
steering
tell them,
committee either.
we're paying them, we should tell them what we want. They shouldn't limit us.
I agree, but I don't want 50 people on that
So I guess,
that committee.
well,
So
one of the
depending on
questions that we
pick
could
of the
pass
people.
along is who on the planning commission would be interested in assisting with the comprehensive plan rewrite?
Yeah.
So that, I can, usually after the meetings, you know, I do the minutes and I do a summary of whatever's going to the board, and whatever other tidbits you guys have, like,
Have
you
you,
know,
have
discrete
you
things like
signed
that,
your
I pass
proposal with
that
them
on,
yet?
so.
I believe you did, but I believe we're waiting for the grant. We missed the first grant in March, I think it was, so there's the second round's in August or September. So probably going to get kicked off to later in the year. And then as far as what you're referencing, it probably wouldn't hurt to reach out, if you're interested, Aaron, reach out to Warren.
Well, I think there's several of us on the planning commission that are interested because
So,
it is.
yeah, so whoever, so
It is a
if
plan.
it's all of us, or
So I
whatever,
guess-
I would shoot him something and say,
Yeah.
the following people.
Yeah, I'd rather
Yeah, I
be
mean,
more
if you
involved
guys-
than just.
If you guys tell me, like, we can go down if you are or aren't interested, and then,
I'm interested.
Aaron, Gary, you are, Melissa.
How many meetings does this consist of?
A lot.
A lot.
Like a week or?
But you also wanna you also, I mean, me personally, I wanna know, like, what does the board have in mind? What, like, unfortunately, Brandywine Conservancy has taken the initiative before and done what they want, and then when we've expressed what we wanted, they changed it behind our backs. So, I don't think we want that to happen. And I understand
That was one
Part of it, that will
individual
happen.
from the planning commission, or the county, or Brook Conservancy,
There's nothing.
and he's not
No.
there, and
I believe.
they made sure that that was.
That was a big part of it. The other part of it is I understand that that's a problem, so I'll do everything in my
I
power
believe
and not,
Van
we're
DeCosta
gonna follow
is
what
the
we're done follow.
one of the conservancy representatives, and we shouldn't have that issue with him. So he's very involved in the township and a lot of the Airbnbs.
We had to read everything.
Every page,
And
every
then we
word.
would go through the meeting and we'd say, this is what we want to change. And then he would change it if he wanted to or didn't change it. We'd have to reread it again and, several times, we went back 2 and 3 times and said, John, that's not what the direction was. And he'd look there and he would argue with us for a while, but eventually, he
I
put in
think
there
that was
what we
after I
wanted.
called him and flipped out that one morning on him. Because that was just ridiculous.
So, I think there's a pretty good contingency from the planning
Yeah.
commission. And that's kind of the planning commission's role.
So I guess this half, you guys interested, possibly interested, depends on the scope.
So
Susan, are you interested?
I was never involved in how much time involved?
A lot. Takes over a year, it's probably 2 meetings a week, or two meetings a month, I think is what we did. It was usually, I think it was actually on a Wednesday. It was a Wednesday off the supervisors meeting, if I remember right.
If we want to be on, we need to commit to make all those nights.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, not all of them. I'll put down that you two are interested, depends on, you know, timing, and you'll make what you can.
I'd love to be involved, but
Yeah.
See here, I was open minded to be there, you know.
Now, part of that plan was a list of actions.
That's correct.
And to my knowledge, that has never been utilized, but also updated. So since that last plan was written, what has been accomplished? What,
That should be meeting number 1.
yes, it should,
That
but
should
why,
be-
why hasn't that been updated? Why has nothing been done with that for the last, or very little done with that since the last comprehensive plan was written?
That's a good question. I don't know if we know if things were done or not done.
Well, I mean, there was no one in charge of reviewing that section of the document, saying, okay, this one was done, or this one still needs to be done, or, so we don't know where we're
My
starting from.
understanding of it was the borough council's manager and the township's manager. It was their responsibility to make sure to monitor that and make sure it got done. That's what my understanding was.
Okay,
Okay, so where is it?
I'll mention that in my summary,
I have
that
no idea.
where that is, and at a minimum, it should be the first meeting, but
Yeah.
something should be,
But we have to know where we're
Updated.
starting from.
right, it should be updated in some form for discussion at the first meeting.
Yeah, what's the point in doing all of it if you're not gonna actually implement the stuff that's in there?
And one of the things that it may need to be, that was a pretty comprehensive list of things that needed to be done.
It was over.
And maybe that's part of the problem is it was too involved in what needed, what all the different action items were. I think it was 3 categories, like immediate, long-term.
It was a
Yeah, but if that had been kept up in the time since the last comprehensive plan, it wouldn't have been overwhelming, because if there had been at least an annual review of that section of the document, there could have been oversight on it saying, okay, well, we've got this done, or of these things that are not done, some of them are no longer even important. But nobody did that, to my knowledge. It was just left.
Would you like kind of check with
Yeah.
Lauren? And if the supervisors, it's really how they want to see it, but if they want that to be put on the planning commission's plate, then we should pick a time every other month or something, or whatever, to go through that list, if they want us to follow through on the items that are on there.
Well, there was various
There's-
entities that were
Responsible,
responsible for.
correct.
Some of them were the planning commission, some of them were the board of supervisors, some of them were someone else. But still, there still should have been someone who was responsible for checking on.
Like the overall
The
thing,
status of
maybe,
the entire-
like you said,
entire
you have
list.
every other month, the planning commission updates their section. And then, but there needs to be that, like, those 3 people that you just mentioned, you still need one
Right.
above to
It
make sure
really needs to be
you're
staffed.
feeding back in.
It really should be staffed to implement and follow through on all this stuff, because
Especially if it's joint with the borough, because we don't do anything with the borough, but Warren's always in contact with the borough on stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Yeah.
what do you call the action items? What's the name of it?
I don't have,
The
anybody have a
document,
complaint?
I actually do think that it's crazy.
It was like, I mean, some things that were.
You actually
I
have
do that because I've read it before and I'm like,
it. Is this your magical plan? Is this your bag? And-
way too much.
2 hours.
It's
So,
like,
so like where I work, we had 3 properties that were vacant. And we had targeted them as like, they were 3 things we wanted to do, whether we had to change the zoning to get uses in there that went with that area or whatever, like, there were, but the staff and the staff were really the ones who pushed that forward. They were really the ones who knew what was in, that knew what was in the comp plan. Like, for instance, at the time, I was the zoning officer, and 2 out of the 3, actually 3 out of 3, within 3 years, ended up all having uses. All 3 of those are there still today. But we did have to change the zoning on one of the properties because it just didn't go with what was around it. So, I mean, I just think, you gotta have a realistic vision of these things, but I think it is more the staff that, because they're the ones who can really carry it out. And the supervisors. I mean, we can only,
Plus, they can be held accountable
Right.
to do it, whereas, it's really difficult for volunteer people to do it, or appointed people to do it.
it's exhausting kind of through it. And that's why I think a lot of stuff doesn't get done, because there's just so much.
Well, in the review, my notebook from when we did the last one was this thick. Now, the comp plan is nowhere near that, I think, but that's how detailed it was.
Yeah, it talks a lot about the Humboldt Park and all that stuff.
Oh, that's that's not the comp plan.
no.
That was the one that the Pittsburgh
Yeah, that,
consultants did, I thought.
Comprehensive recreation parks.
well, that's.
Yes,
for the-
that's
correct.
Yeah.
That's
The actual comp plan's pretty, I got it printed out at home, it's a pretty big volume.
It's actually 2, I have 2, 2,
Joint comp plan.
yes, yes.
I think they overcomplicated it
They did.
when
I
they
agree.
did it, and then I think getting back to what you're saying,
Is it on?
no one,
Yeah,
it's
it
just,
should be.
it's
on-
too clumsy to
on the
handle,
website,
and it's just.
yeah. I'm pretty sure I've pulled it up before for the
Well, I think, you know,
roadway classifications, and there's certain maps of the zoning ordinance references that are in there. Yeah.
And if I understand correctly, I think you were telling me, Garrett, that in a nutshell, it wasn't like we're expecting major changes with this next plan.
I just emailed to the planning Honeybrook Township email address the link to the main page, and on there's the comprehensive plan, the appendices. There's also the land preservation update. The one that you just talked about, Erin, the recreation parks and open space plan,
Okay.
the 537 plan, things like that. So I gave you a link to all those.
Yeah, it needs to be aligned with Northern Chester County, the sewer authority, Northwestern Chester County.
That's a whole other.
But all that needs to be aligned because you need to know where they're planning their growth so that the zoning is consistent with where they're gonna grow or not gonna grow. So that there aren't growth areas that don't have, the infrastructure. I can't imagine there needs to be a whole lot of change to it. Well, the last time around, not so much the areas, but the densities were reduced.
Yeah, so on page 81 of under planning documents. Yep. And scroll. That first one, the municipal comprehensive plan, and then if you go to page 81 of that PDF, that's the implementation plan. So that talks about, so for your question about action items, so it starts with future land use category of action items. Amend the township zoning ordinance to remove the traditional neighborhood development overlay district. Update the underlying zoning for this area as necessary to implement recommendations of the Brook plan. And again, amend the zoning and borough, township and borough zoning ordinances to add, modify, or delete existing zoning districts or provisions where inconsistent with this plan. So that's what generated the new zoning ordinance in 2017, I think. So then, so there's land use things, then there's like fair share housing, category.
And then on the far right, the responsibility is the next column, who's
Yeah.
responsible for it. And then the far right is whether it's short-term, medium term. Yeah, immediate, short-term, mid-term, long-term, and overall.
So it looks like the majority of it's going to be that.
Well, it has to be at least up in the beginning because it requires action.
Yeah, so there was zoning stuff, fair share housing, Brook Borough revitalization plan, so that was,
That was all.
there are two things. Natural resources section, there's things in here like increased voluntary participation by farmers and other landowners in forested buffer protection, restoration measures, protecting hydric soils. Then there's an ag preservation section, scenic and historic resources, parks and recreation. One of those things was to prepare a multi-municipal parks, recreation, and trails plan, which was done in 2020. But it talks about other park amenities and things, community trails, transportation. What other categories we have? Yeah, community facilities, water and sewer. And then there's all like individual tasks, under each one. So yeah, this really needs so I'll mention to Warren and see if we can find out if there is a current status of those and/or before we get to the initial meetings, for this comp plan, this really needs to be worked through and update it to,
Well, the request should be made to the supervisors to ask Warren to update this.
right,
And if they want to have Warren updated, then they have Warren updated.
that's
I
fine.
don't think we can direct, as a planning commission, we
No,
can't
you
direct
can't,
Warren to do it.
So I'll put that one of your recommendations would be a BOS agenda action item, you know, for that to be discussed, so.
But I had asked about this last summer, and nothing's happened in the last 8 to 9 months.
Like I said, I'll follow up and see where it's at.
So it looks like it's 14 pages of action.
I think like page and a half or 2 pages was the paragraph. Revitalization, but yeah, it's still a lot of stuff.
And if we don't know what we've accomplished in the last 8 to 10 years since the last comp plan, I don't think we should be starting on a new one until we find out what we've already done.
Okay.
Oh, I would bet that some of that stuff was done.
Oh, I'm sure it is, but if we can't say, yes, we've done this, we haven't done these, and this is no longer important, or this still is important, I just,
Right. No, there definitely needs to be an update and a, I'm sure that's in spreadsheet form somewhere that they should be able to add another column and say status, you know, address, not address, and put that together. So I'll pass all that on.
You said you had a couple items.
She said that when she.
Yeah,
She did
that was
too.
good, below, yep.
Yeah, the screens and the plans and then the comp plan thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? So if there's nothing else, I guess we can entertain a motion to adjourn. You don't think you, Jen?
I don't know.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.